The chamber was silent. Not the kind born of peace, but the tense quiet of a verdict already known. Delegates from 17 species lined the obsidian arc of the Galactic Council, their gazes fixed on the central projection, Earth, slowly rotating in a field of stars. "They are not like us," said the Tlark ambassador, her voice gravel and static. "They build weapons before language. They transmit violence before culture. We cannot measure them by our metrics." A low chorus of agreement rippled through the chamber. Even the Grawl, who had once colonized 6 systems through sheer brute force, remained subdued. No one wanted to speak the name of the species they feared, but the projection made it unnecessary. Humanity. A race that had reached space with metal tubes and fire, not consensus. A race that had split the atom before understanding its own biology. They had no centralized world government, no representative to speak on their behalf. And when invited to join the Galactic Accord, they had declined, politely, but absolutely. Neutral. That word had never carried so much weight. A motion was brought forward: prohibit any interference with Earth. Let them be. Observe from a distance, and only that. It passed with unanimous vote. The fear wasn't that humans were aggressive, the fear was that no one could predict when they might become so. They didn't conquer, but they didn't comply. They didn't reach out, but they watched. Always they watched. And from the far end of the chamber came laughter. Deep, mocking, regal. The king of the Varn Dominion rose from his seat, nearly 8 feet tall, plated in ceremonial armor, for eyes gleaming with contempt. "You fear these apes?" he said. "You tremble before a species too fractured to unify under one sky? You speak of restraint when there is only opportunity." No one interrupted him. Not out of respect, but the same way one might watch a fool edge toward a cliff. "They are unclaimed, unaligned, unprotected," the king continued. "A planet rich in resources, unbound by treaty. They lack interstellar capability. What threat could they possibly pose?" The Hilyarianvo, thin and glass-skinned, spoke softly. "We've seen them adapt to hostile environments faster than any known species. They domesticated fire, ice, even radiation. Their military simulations show total war scenarios, against themselves. They escalate faster than any predictive model. They simulate war," the king sneered. "We wage it. The Dominion is not afraid of warmongering children. We are the sharpened edge. They are still crawling." The council remained still. The king took their silence for hesitation, not warning. "You would let this world drift in the void while you cower behind decrees? I will not. The Varn Dominion claims Earth by right of conquest." One delegate, old, blind, his species long extinct but digitally preserved, spoke only once. "You were warned." The king laughed again, long and loud. "Then let history mark this day. The Dominion ascends. Earth will kneel." And with that, he left the chamber. No vote could stop him. No sanction mattered. The Dominion's fleets were sovereign, their laws written by plasma and ambition. In his mind, Earth was already his. The council adjourned in silence. The projection of Earth faded slowly, but not before one last data point flickered across its surface, an automated transmission, bouncing across satellites, tight-beamed through encrypted nodes. The content was classified. The origin untraceable. But it ended with 5 words. "We see you, Varn King." No one acknowledged it. But the fear was no longer just quiet. It had become expectation. The Varn fleet arrived without ceremony. 37 Dreadnought-class warships eclipsed Earth's orbit, casting long shadows across the stratosphere. The King's flagship, Dominion's Wrath, anchored the formation, its hull lined with ion batteries and quantum lances. Their presence wasn't a threat. It was a declaration. Civilian satellites were overwritten within minutes. Global positioning systems flickered and fell. Earth's response was nothing. The king expected scrambling defenses, panic broadcasts, desperate diplomacy. What he got was static. He ordered a broadcast in every major human language. His voice thundered through hijacked networks. People of Earth, you now fall under the protection and rule of the Varn Dominion. Resist, and you will suffer. Submit, and you will thrive. No reply. Not even a defiant retort. Advisors assured him that the humans were stunned, overwhelmed, slow to respond. He believed it. Every species had a moment of hesitation before understanding the reality of conquest. Hours passed. No aircraft scrambled. No missiles launched. No diplomats begged for negotiations. Silence. Orbit-to-surface scans showed stable power grids, operational infrastructure, unbroken communications. They weren't stunned. They were watching. The king grew impatient. He ordered a limited strike, a demonstration. A kinetic rod was launched from high orbit, targeting a coastal military base. No explosives. Pure force. The impact vaporized the installation, registering a seismic event equivalent to a small earthquake. Still no response. Another advisory meeting. Theories emerged. Internal human politics delayed action, or perhaps they mistook the attack as an isolated event. The king dismissed them. They are waiting for mercy. I offer none. He greenlit planetary incursions. Dropships launched in formation, descending over major cities: New York, Shanghai, Sao Paulo, Delhi. Tactical teams deployed, armed and armored, expecting riots, resistance, some kind of civil disruption. But the streets were calm. Cars abandoned. Traffic lights blinking. Windows shuttered. Phones buzzing unanswered on sidewalks. Thermal scans showed people indoors. No congregations, no mobs. Just absence. It was a cityscape paused mid-thought. Soldiers moved street by street. No gunfire. No engagement. Just the unnerving sensation of being observed. One Varn commander reported, "The buildings are sealed. But power is active. We detect no hostility, only containment." Another squad vanished after entering a subway tunnel. No distress signal. No trace. Just silence. The king dismissed it as localized resistance. Pockets of defiance are expected. Sweep and pacify. He ordered deeper deployment. More troops, more drones, greater coverage. That night, half the surface feeds went dark. Tactical drones lost contact. Infantry units stopped reporting. No signs of battle. No screams. Just nodes blinking off. A request to withdraw and regroup was submitted by 2 field generals. Both were terminated for insubordination. The king broadcast again, this time directly to Earth's remaining networks. I offer one final chance. Submit. Or extinction will follow. A minute passed. Then, a signal returned, not through his systems, but embedded inside them. A short message, encoded with ancient protocols predating most galactic standards. No terms. No surrender. Continue. The king stared at the words. He didn't recognize the formatting. It wasn't military, diplomatic, or strategic. It was casual. A response typed, not spoken. Not frantic. Not afraid. As if it were routine. He demanded updated fleet status. 23% of orbital sensors were down. 4 of his ships had initiated self-isolation protocols due to corrupted subsystems. Communications across 6 platforms were now filtered through unknown encryption layers. None of his officers had answers. The invasion hadn't failed. It hadn't even started. And yet, something was already pulling it apart. He looked back at Earth. Still turning. Still silent. Still watching. At 0200 UTC, Dominion ships began reporting internal disruptions. Lights flickered, systems rebooted without command, and automated defenses cycled offline. Command AI cores returned anomalous status codes, unreadable even by their creators. Simultaneously, Earth's power grid dimmed in synchronized sectors. Not a failure, an intentional pattern. Across continents, civilian networks rerouted. Subsurface fiber optic nodes went silent. Observation satellites caught flickers of coordinated infrastructure shutdowns. Timed. Surgical. The Varn fleet deployed diagnostic drones. None returned. Each vanished 30 seconds after launch. No wreckage. No signals. On the surface, soldiers marched into empty suburbs and vacant megacities. Every structure intact. Every machine operational. But no movement, no sound. The humans were present, but nowhere visible. Thermal scans showed inconsistent data. One moment, readings indicated crowded buildings. The next, nothing. Rooms cleared faster than scans could confirm. Then came the first strike. A Varn patrol vanished in rural Russia. 4 minutes later, one soldier's helmet feed was recovered, 16 seconds of pure chaos. No visuals. Just ragged breathing, static, and 2 gunshots. Not plasma. Ballistic. In Sao Paulo, an entire drop zone was swallowed by coordinated electromagnetic interference. Transport craft plummeted, not destroyed but disabled. Their crash sites were gone within hours. No flames. Just missing metal. Fleet Command attempted to reposition orbital arrays. They found half of them hijacked. Data looping. Internal logs rewritten to hide tampering. Artificial intelligence cores locked in recursive logic loops with embedded code signatures traced back to Earth's mid-21st century systems. Outdated. Unbeatable. By midday, over 30% of ground units failed to check in. No confirmed enemy. No bodies recovered. Just empty armor and silent weapons left in strange places, carefully placed. Sometimes upright. Sometimes posed. Every arrangement different. Every one deliberate. By nightfall, Varn officers received a direct signal from inside their own encrypted channels. No warning. No demand. Just this. You landed. We watched. Now we begin. Fleet Command ordered escalation. Airstrikes on presumed human hubs. Infrastructure leveled in a 10-kilometer radius. Still no retaliation, until the drones failed. All of them. Simultaneously. 1 second airborne. The next, mid-flight feedback loops fried every control interface. They spiraled out of the sky in waves. In Washington, D.C., a Varn tactical base deployed defensive perimeters. Invisible contacts tripped every motion sensor, yet visual confirmation yielded nothing. Drones fired. Missed. Fired again. Nothing. Moments later, the comms tower exploded from within. No projectile. No trace of breach. The humans weren't fighting for territory. They weren't fighting at all. They were removing. Piece by piece. On board Dominion's Wrath, bridge officers whispered about sabotage. Crew members vanished from sealed quarters. Entire maintenance sections went dark. Surveillance footage played back altered frames, loops of corridors with shadows that didn't match lighting. Command accused treachery. Then the command deck lights went red. Unknown code injected into central control. Source internal. Access point unknown. And then, the final broadcast. It hit every Varn vessel, overriding failsafes, playing through every speaker. A calm human voice. No distortion. No emotion. We asked for peace. You chose demonstration. This is ours. After that, the sky changed. Above Earth, new satellites ignited, unregistered, undocumented, undetectable until that moment. They reoriented as one, beaming focused EMP bursts into orbit. Varn vessels lost all surface mapping, all comms, all fleet coordination. For 6 minutes, the Dominion fleet was blind. When systems rebooted, the damage was quiet, but permanent. Subroutines corrupted. Weapons locked in safe mode. Command algorithms rewritten. Bridge logs erased. And on Earth, the cities remained dark. The streets remained still. But now the silence was tactical. And the king had no idea how many pieces he'd already lost. The flagship's central core reported 17% of its crew missing. No casualties logged. Just absence. Secure doors hadn't been breached, escape pods remained docked, and internal scanners showed no anomalies. The bridge staff submitted continuous diagnostics, but nothing explained the disappearances. It was as if those crew members had simply ceased to exist. The king demanded answers. No one had any. Logs were incomplete. Surveillance feeds ran clean for hours, then flickered with a single frame out of sync. In that frame, a shadow stood near the primary console. Wrong shape, wrong height, not Varn. The next moment, the footage corrected itself. All ships reported intermittent loss of control. Navigation systems drifted off course. Gun batteries misaligned. Automated defenses cycled targets without input. The AI issued routine checks, confirming authority signatures that no officer recognized. Fleet morale collapsed. Orders were delayed, second-guessed, repeated. Officers muttered off record. No one spoke of Earth anymore. They called it the silent world. The waiting world. The one that moved without moving. The king dismissed the fear as weakness. He summoned a ground division to be relocated back to the fleet. The shuttle never arrived. No beacon. No explosion. Just gone. Hours later, their transponders returned, stacked inside the Dominion's Wrath cargo bay, unpowered, neatly arranged, all signals scrubbed. No alarm triggered. No sensor recorded entry. Command protocols shifted from conquest to survival. Fleet captains requested withdrawal. The king rejected them all. He accused them of cowardice. They obeyed, but their discipline fractured. Quietly, some began wiping their own databases. Others initiated blackout protocols, hoping to sever whatever connection was growing between Earth and their systems. It didn't matter. The core AI shut itself down. No command issued. No override succeeded. Life support continued, but command functions dissolved. The ship could still fly. It simply refused to listen. Then the silence deepened. One by one, the bridge crew lost their voices. Not metaphorically. Their comms ceased transmitting. Internal mics registered silence even as they screamed. Medics found no injury, no damage, just stunned expressions. The audio systems had isolated them completely, from each other, from the rest of the ship, from the world outside. A technician tried bypassing the mute protocols. He succeeded. For 3 seconds. During those 3 seconds, a foreign voice came through. We warned him. Not a question. Not a threat. Just acknowledgement. The king ordered a complete systems purge. Manual reset. Physical disconnection. A desperate fallback. It triggered no change. Instead, the lights dimmed. An alert flashed across every screen, one word, repeated once. Incoming. No trajectory. No object. No source. Just presence. The king drew his sidearm. Not for war. For the illusion of control. He walked through the ship alone, chamber after chamber now empty. Not destroyed. Emptied. His footfalls echoed louder than the engines. Near the navigation core, he found a message carved into the steel wall. Not burned. Not cut. Etched by hand. We were never unarmed. He turned. Someone stood 10 feet away. Not Varn. No armor. No glowing eyes. No insignia. Just black fabric, boots, gloved hands, a featureless mask. Human. The king raised his weapon. Blinked. The figure was gone. No sound. No motion. Only a soft click from behind him, his sidearm locking itself. Disarmed. Without touch. His knees gave out. The command deck doors slid shut. Alone, surrounded by dead consoles and muted lights, he stared at his own reflection in the glass. The mask behind him returned. One sentence played through the overhead system, flat and cold. We didn't want war. But we never lose one. Then nothing. No death. No explosion. Just the unbearable truth. He had been allowed to live. He returned alone. No escorts. No fleet. No explanation. The Dominion's Wrath limped into neutral space without broadcasting clearance, shields cold, systems stripped down to bare function. The Council received no formal transmission. The ship docked, and he disembarked in silence. The king who had once towered with pride now walked without posture. His armor remained unblemished, but it no longer fit. His eyes held no fire. He didn't demand audience. He simply entered the chamber and stood in the center without invitation. No one spoke. He opened his mouth once, paused, then lowered his gaze. Not in shame, not in surrender, something deeper. Something broken. When he finally spoke, his voice lacked volume. There was no battlefield. He continued, each sentence fragmented, as though describing a dream he barely survived. No open conflict. No resistance. Just absence. And then removal. He spoke of soldiers who vanished without combat. Of equipment that obeyed new masters without visible infiltration. Of code rewritten by languages no Dominion system ever used. Of ghosts that left no bodies. Of silence that pressed harder than any bombardment. They didn't destroy us, he said. They dismantled us. One delegate asked how many human combatants he'd encountered. None confirmed, he replied. Another asked what their weaponry looked like. He blinked. Not seen. The Tlark ambassador leaned forward. Then how were you defeated? They decided it. The chamber fell still. The Hiliari, normally skeptical, reviewed recovered Dominion logs. Scrubbed entries, contradictory timestamps, missing hours. When reconstructed, they showed one alarming constant, a complete failure of control, not through violence, but erasure. Ships weren't attacked. They were owned. Minds weren't broken. They were redirected. Every protocol, every layer of resistance, bypassed by something that didn't ask for access. The Grawl requested a vote to consider Earth a hostile anomaly. The elders declined. One counselor spoke. They're not hostile. They're aware. The vote shifted. Earth would not be punished. No fleet sent. No sanctions proposed. Instead, one recommendation: containment by distance. No probes. No communication. No contact. A Varn advisor objected, demanding reprisal. The elder responded. Against what? Their soldiers? Their weapons? We never saw either. Debate ended. Then, without permission, a new signal entered the chamber, untraceable, low power, embedded through multiple relay systems. It bypassed all filters, appeared on every screen. 5 words. We will remain. For now. No voice. No signature. No timestamp. It wasn't a threat. It was a reminder. The projection of Earth flickered into view again. Unchanged. Still rotating. Still quiet. The only planet in known space to have turned back an empire without a battle. Not with force. Not with diplomacy. With intention. The king remained standing. No one dismissed him. He had nowhere to return. His empire still existed in name, but its pride had been buried. A delegate asked one final question. What do they want? No answer came from him. Instead, a playback initiated from a Dominion recording. Buried in corrupted storage. Recovered only once, decrypted at enormous cost. It contained a single human voice, male, plain, emotionless. We want nothing. The line repeated. We want nothing. The feed ended. That was it. No manifesto. No ideology. No conquest. Just a species that watched, waited, and when pushed, responded with absolute control, not to conquer, but to demonstrate capacity. The Council logged the final entry on the matter. Earth, neutral by choice. Unapproachable by consequence. The session closed without ceremony. As the delegates left, the Tlark whispered what none dared say aloud. They didn't show us power. They showed us restraint. And in the end, the galaxy finally understood. The humans were not feared because of what they did. They were feared because of what they didn't have to do.